cosmic citizens. Let's give a warm welcome to Trisha Gunawardena.
Cosmic citizenship is an idea that connects humans and the rest of the universe we live in. However, the only people to actually achieve this valuable identity of being a cosmic citizen are mainly adults and knowledgeable scientists. But what about teenagers, like me? How do we get teenagers and young adults to contemplate about our place in the universe and eventually become cosmic citizens? I believe that the most effective way of doing this is through the educational system. For the most part, school curricula are uninspiring and based on 19th century needs. The emphasis is still on memorizing facts rather than encouraging creativity or stimulating critical thinking. We live in special times, and yet most of us aren't even aware of it. We are witnessing a renewed interest in space exploration. Private companies, DIY entrepreneurs, and Fortune 500 companies are all pumping money into space exploration. We stand at the threshold of space tourism. It is very likely that in a few decades, we will have humans making routine trips to space, just as we take routine flights over continents and oceans today. But who is preparing our children for this future? Who is educating teenagers like me about the universe that's out there? I suppose the easy answer is to say, you've got the internet. Go watch a video and educate yourself. But that, in my opinion, is not the right approach. That's like saying to a child, hey kid, here's an iPad. It's got an app for the alphabet. Learn to read and write on your own. No. If we're going to create a generation of youth who are informed about the cosmos and who can speak intelligently and in a scientifically literate way about the universe, then we need to take a more decisive action. We need to educate our students about the wonders and the mysteries of what's out there. We need to bring cosmology and astronomy into the classrooms. Wouldn't it be a tragedy if at the end of 15 years of high school and college education, a person were given a map of the world, but she wasn't able to identify the countries on them? Our reaction would be an amalgamation of ridicule and regret at the quality of education she has received. I believe that we ought to feel the same sense of regret if at the end of 15 years of education, our bright young minds still remain clueless about the night sky and the universe we live in. Unfortunately, for most of us, that's the state of affairs. Today, when most of us look up at the night sky, we are bewildered by what we are looking at. The stars seem like random points of light. But it wasn't so for our ancestors. They named and cataloged hundreds of stars. Every night, after a hard day's work of hunting and gathering, they'd sit around a bonfire, and the night sky was their television. Today, we know far, far, far more about the universe than our ancestors could have ever dreamed of. And yet, so many of us still remain uninformed about the starry heavens. We've got to leverage the educational system so that when kids gaze up at the stars, not only will they be able to name them, Not only will they be able to appreciate the enormous distances involved, but also simply gaze in wonder. But not the mystical, bewildered wonder of the poet. Rather, the educated and informed wonder of the scientifically literate. So, what would this educational system look like? In addition to including cosmology and astronomy as regular subjects, what I advocate is more trips to planetaria, observatories, and camping under the stars. Here at the Winchester School, we do it as part of the Astronomy Club. But I'd like to see it as part of the main curriculum, not as some sideshow. I'd also like to touch upon some of the values we need to promote if we're going to prepare our students for the cosmic age of space exploration that is dawning upon us. One of the things teachers must do is to encourage creativity and innovation while having the big picture in mind. By creativity, I mean the ability to create something new. New ideas, new products, new poetry, and new ways of thinking. And by innovation, I mean the creation of novel and ingenious ways to solve problems. We currently educate our students about our past. History is a regular part of the curriculum. But who is teaching our kids to think about the future? We know where we came from, but who is teaching us to think about where we are going? Schools need to make future studies just as important as history. But that's not the end. It's nowhere close. When a student is asked, "Why do you attend school?" the answer will most likely be a self-centered one. A response stating that it was necessary for them to succeed. Right from school, we are taught to compete. We are taught that collaboration is for the meek. We're taught in business colleges that compassion is for the weak. Might is right and the fittest survive, each one for themselves. That's the message students get when they step into the job market just after college. Which is why I believe that collaboration and cooperation are more important than competition. The world is changing dramatically. The old pre-20th century ways of fierce competition are starting to give way to collaboration. For centuries, the nations of Western Europe competed bitterly against each other. But today, we have the EU, which, though not perfect, is the best example of what we have of collaboration between disparate and diverse nations. The EU is the most successful bloc of nations the world has ever seen by any measure, be it healthcare, crime rate, scientific innovation, pension, and to some extent, GDP. They did this by choosing to collaborate. I believe that in the 21st century, we is the new me. We've got to create schools that foster the sense of togetherness. It shouldn't be something taught in specifically a moral science or PSHE lesson once a week. It should be woven into the very fabric of our educational system. Another thing schools need to do in encouraging and creating cosmic citizens is to promote the values of the 17th and 18th century age of enlightenment and reason. We need a generation of young minds who are scientifically literate and base their views on evidence and reason, not pseudoscience. We need a generation of young minds who are not afraid to voice their disagreement, challenge authority, and change the status quo. And finally, we need a generation of young minds who are not afraid to have big dreams. Big dreams for themselves, and big dreams for our species. As we stand on the threshold, waiting to take our first steps to go forth into the vast cosmos that's out there, I believe that future generations will look back at what we do right now. our schools, our teachers, our principals, and our educational system all have to change if we are to ensure that our future is in the hands of the enlightened, compassionate, and forward-thinking cosmic citizens.